Hello, everybody. Okay. This is a live recording of the Basin Conspiracy Podcast where we talk... Okay, actually, let me start this off correctly. Welcome to the Basin Conspiracy. I'm Eneasz Brodsky.
I'm Steven Zuber.
We have at least one guest. We may have others joining us later, but you are...
Brandon Hendrickson.
We are here to talk about how to live well with PDoom. We're talking about this specifically because I have had some people coming up to me in Denver since apparently I organized meetups there, and sometimes people think that I know the answers to questions, which is false. But they ask me, how do I live when I think the world has a good chance of being destroyed in less than 10 years? What do I do with my life under these circumstances? I have not good answers, honestly. So I'm hoping that some of the people I know who also have relatively high PDooms can help me out with this. I do have some answers. However, since I know you have limited time here, I really want to hit you first, and then me and Steven can talk also. How can we live in a world where we're scared we might die soon? You seem to be living a actually fairly good life. It's one of the weird questions I've been asked when I was preparing for this podcast is, what does it mean to live life well? And I was like, dude, I don't know. You seem fairly happy. You seem to be doing a lot with your life that is fulfilling for you. And that is why you came to mind. Brandon, what is your PDoom? And do you feel like your life is being lived well? Just as a quick introduction. Also, one sentence introduction as to who you are.
My one claim to fame in this world is that I won Scott Alexander's book review contest in 2023. Does that suffice for this? I own a company called Science is Weird, where I've invested my life in pioneering a new model of education that I think might actually work. So I have, my one thing. I have my thing that I wake up for every morning that gets me excited and makes me happy when I go to bed most days. So that is, I think, maybe a large part of the reality of my answer is that I have a cause that I'm living for. So take everything else that I say in line with that. That might be doing all of the heavy lifting.
Okay.
My PDoom is 0. Well, my PDoom is whatever Scott Alexander last answered when he gave his PDoom. I have decided to just outsource this in my life because I'm not smart enough to have a hot take on this topic.
Okay.
30% seems really high to most normies. So can I treat that as a high PDoom for this situation? I know it's not higher. Can we this is to give the listeners sort of a sociological taste of what it is like to be at Lighthaven. Can everyone give us a slider in just a second for how high your PDoom is? So this will be 50%. Can we define the timeline that we're talking about? Can we define PDoom? Do we need to do that?
We should actually do that for listeners. Yeah. The PDoom is the probability that all human life on the planet will be extinct. Honestly, it's all life on the planet, but let's stick with just human life for now. Yeah, within, let's say, 10 years.
Thank you very much. So for the next 10 years, what's your PDoom? 50%, 25-ish percent. Call this 1%. Just because we want to be able to register really low numbers, call this 99%. If you're at 100, double thumbs up. If you are at, the podcast audience should know that I'm moving my thumb around. 0% is double thumbs down. Does that make sense as a question for this? All right. So on the count of 3, nobody can do this first. Otherwise, we'll just ape Eliezer. Give us your estimate in 3, 2, 1, and shoot. Steven, what do you notice about the room right now?
Pretty decent spread, but about 50% or over 50%. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
What are the outliers? What's the lowest? What's the highest?
I mean, I see a full thumbs up. Do I see any double thumbs ups? No, yeah. So no one's got a 1 and no one's got a 0, but I see a lot of thumbs down. So.
Good Bayesians. What was the question again?
What is your PDoom?
I guess I need to bring it down. So I'm going to say it's 20% right now for the next 10 years. Or that's my live thing. Okay. So then the real question behind that was, how do I get up in the morning or whatever?
Yeah. How does this not bring you down every day? Why am I continuing with this looming down my neck?
Okay. So I feel like my answer to this is grounded in my de facto stoicism, that I've made myself comfortable with my own death. And this is where you and I have never actually had it out about your transhumanist hopes of living forever.
Yeah.
I feel like that is the cause of much suffering. And I used to be afraid of my own death as much as any existentially wrought person of our ilk is.
The problem with extinction isn't your own death, though. Like, most people have, at least after me, things will go on. My children, my work, something. We're talking about, like, the planet is barren.
But the planet was always going to die.
We could have gone out into the stars.
The stars are
Given
going
enough
to
time.
But the universe is always going to end.
Yeah, sure, okay. Once you're talking about many trillions of years.
There's no difference.
Okay.
I may be wrong about this. I really feel there's no difference.
I feel like you're taking all the talking points I was going to have, but that's totally fine. So,
Okay.
Proton decay, right? If you think that we could live actually forever, et cetera, but there's always, the possibility of proton decay. I mean, I just imagine that like these beings who have evolved themselves, whatever number of petaillion years in the future, grasping with such advanced forlornness, with suffering that we in our own flesh brains cannot fathom, of the protons going out. And I feel like, the way of fixing that problem is just to become okay with the fact that you're going to die and the universe is going to die. There are two possibilities. One is that we wouldn't, and the other is that we would, and both are very horrific. And you can just bite the bullet and make yourself comfortable with that.
I want to just point out too that make yourself okay with doesn't mean that like it's great, doesn't mean that we need to be happy about it, but it's just the way things are. And it's, again, not resigning yourself to say, well, let's not try and change the future, but there are things that we can't fix, like entropy. And so to just malign that and think, well, then everything's pointless, in a nutshell, my thing is like, I think we're all going to die someday, barring some breakthrough in physics that lets us turn time around. That day might be in billions of years, or it might be in 10. It might be spread out, or it might all be on the same day. That doesn't really change the day-to-day equation, I don't think.
The day-to-day equation is one of the interesting parts about this, because the thing I was asked specifically was like, what do I change differently in my life? And I think that is an interesting question. Like, people will live their lives differently, I'm assuming, if they think they're going to die in 10 years, or if they think everyone's going to die in 10 years. And it sounds like you haven't really changed much of your life, despite the fact 20% chance they'll all be gone in 10 years.
I think I just changed my life before my fears of PDoom. I come from a long line of people who have died of Alzheimer's, so I don't know how long that I have because of that. I have a date marked on my Google Calendar, August 3rd, 2060, when an actuarial table, even minus the Alzheimer's and whatever else, would predict my demise. I have a spreadsheet of books to buy before I die, where every 2 weeks I just allow myself, whatever my financial circumstances, to buy a book and not feel bad about it. And it's counting down to that day in 2060. Yeah. Do you want to know how I did the thing where I got myself to be okay with death?
Yeah, there was an actual thing.
It was a 1-2 punch for me. I do not claim that this will work for anyone else. Of reading the book Staring at the Sun by Irving Shalom, the psychoanalyst, confronting the fear of death, at the same time as using an app called WeCroak, WeCroak, that was begun when somebody who made apps was couch surfing in a dude's living room, and the dude was saying how he had just heard that the Dalai Lama practices a certain form of a Tibetan meditation where 5 times a day he imagines himself dying, and then his skin cooling, and then his, I forget Buddhist burial practices, and his flesh shriveling, liquefying, etc. And he thinks about that 5 times a day. And the guy said, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could all do that? And the other guy said, I think I could make an app that would prompt you to do that. And it was the 1-2 punch of having this app that 5 times a day would prompt me and say, don't forget, you're going to die. And wrestling with these things that made it not just an abstract okayness with death, but apparently, and one cannot say what will actually happen when one gets close to it, but for the last, 10, 15 years, like, I'm fine with it. So that I did that.
Is there anyone out there in the audience who had their thumb at 50% or more, who's not okay with death and who has made radical changes to their life in the past year or two based on this?
Based on PDoom.
Based on PDoom, yeah.
I mean, I have.
Okay. What did you do?
A number of small things that kind of amount to a big thing. I've stopped putting off doing things that I could do later. I start doing them now because there might not be a later. I don't contribute to a 401k.
Yeah.
I feel like I missed part of your question.
That's basically like, what do you do differently based on that? I'm not even at 50%, and I've made quite major changes to my life.
Yeah, I'm not at 50 either, but I mean, it's I don't know what my hard number is, between 10 and 30-ish. But like the thing is the odds of me living through the end of the week are always non-zero. Or excuse me, the odds of me dying by the end of the week are always non-zero. Yeah. And so I have made more of a concerted effort over the last few years to end every interaction I have with people as if it's the last time I'll ever see them. And this isn't as grim as it sounds. It's actually, it's like a constant gratitude pump that's running in the background.
Is there anyone out there with more than 50%, or, what they consider high PDoom? I consider 30% a high PDoom. That's a high chance we're going to die. That hasn't changed their life despite that would like to say as to why? I am legit curious why someone would have that high a PDoom and not start changing things.
Here we gave a microphone to an audience member.
Okay. It is possible that AI doesn't kill all of us, but makes the value of our labor zero. And I'm concerned that you're just going to get stuck with whatever capital you have starting now. So
you're trying to save as much capital as you can to prepare for that point?
Within reason. Just get to fire so I don't become a member of the permanent underclass.
Were you doing that before you had the high PDoom?
Yes. To like retire.
Okay.
Cool. I don't want to make you stick around longer than you want, but I'm curious, what do you anticipate a future looking like where labor is useless, but capital is still worth something?
You can imagine that like people own a lot of land and they extract rents from it, right? Just like the landed nobility or like Californians who have low tax bases.
Like, I guess kind of you're just hoping that, or not hoping, but you're anticipating that your legal contracts that say this is your land will still be good after the end of the world?
Yes, that is a possibility. I agree it's like unlikely. Things might get crazy, but that's why I'm...
Cool. I've had my own kind of weird thing about this. I feel kind of embarrassed saying this because I was just fighting with somebody about religion yesterday. But I'm reminded that the first century Christians, I think we've talked about this, the first century Christians actually thought the world was going to end and they were all going to die very soon. And their response was, well, when the people are fleeing the cities because the plagues are coming ripping through, we're not going to flee because everyone's going to die anyway, right? We'll just stay right here and we'll tend to the sick, because if we're all going to die, best thing we can do is make life not as bad for other people for a while. To me, that kind of seems like the best idea. Just try to make life as good and as tolerable as you can for as many people as you can. I don't mean it in the EA way, like where you're just giving money to far-flung places, but like you're actually taking some emotional comfort yourself and comforting other people that are nearby. There's this idea people have that like when the world is ending, everyone's going to just go into crazy hedonism and who cares? I might as well steal and burn everything down and do all the drugs. And I mean, yeah, sure, I do a lot more drugs now too. But when it doesn't matter, then you don't have to hold on as tightly to all your things because they're not going to matter soon anyway. So use more of your time to help out other people.
Can I ask I'm just going to do it, can't I? Because I have the microphone.
Yeah.
Is there any ways in which anyone here finds the possibility of the end of the world, let's call it that, to be good, to make you happy, to be freeing, to help you focus on what really matters, and anything like that? I'll just take a no thumbs down or a yes a lot thumbs up, or maybe a little bit would be kind of maybe a quarter of the way up or something like that. Sorry, does that question make sense?
I think it was 3 different questions actually. One,
well, they all made sense then.
Well,
they nodded.
Was you asked, is it good or does it help you find value or something? And
well, I mean that as a type of good. I'm not saying is the end of the world good. I'm saying, is it psychologically in any way helpful for anyone? This is just riffing off of what Eneasz just said. 3, 2, 1, shoot.
Mostly thumbs down, 1 or 2 middles. We got a thumbs up right here.
But remember that we said it where like thumbs like this is actually a thumbs up. It means like a thumb one, like a 25% means up a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit helpful.
Yeah,
for us.
But it sounds like Andrew. Yeah. It makes you feel more free in life. It does. Do you want to say briefly?
Here we gave a microphone to an audience member.
Yeah, it has to do with the way I grew up and was raised, I think. But like fear of failure really dominated my early life. Like not like playing the game not to lose as opposed to playing to win, like being failure averse. Like I've heard people write about this, like gifted kid syndrome or whatever. But yeah, totally. So for me, it was coming to like you had stoicism, which I think is great. But existentialism, for me with Camus and Emile Chiron primarily, which is like this. Camus is like, just to break it down, it's just absurdism. Just stopping expecting things to make sense, which is like anti-rationality on some level. His thing was like, we can't understand what life is. We can't understand our place in it. We should stop trying to do that, and we should focus on other things. And kind of revolt against the absurd was kind of one of his things that he counseled to do, and like kind of like act as if things matter even though you know they don't. And so I think that ties really, for me, that ties strongly into AI doom, in that it doesn't matter, but you can still revolt against it not mattering. Like that itself might not matter, but I mean, it gets just kind of turtles all the way down at that point. But yeah, for me, revolting against the absurd, like the absurd nature of reality, that this is something we're actually talking about, and like, you know, is actually has the chance to end all life that it does. Like, it doesn't make sense, you know. And once you like Camus kind of just counseling you to accept that. For me personally, just a little thing. It's just like, then I can catch myself a lot of times a day, like, oh, you're expecting that to make sense. And then I stop myself, and then I take a step back, get some of my own biases out of the way, I think. Like my attempt to like rationalize what's going on and try to understand it.
And instead you could just do things.
Yeah, and like the less fear of failure, I guess, for me is like the one way that this kind of helped me try to do more things. Because that was crippling. And again, if it doesn't matter and it's all absurd, then failure, it's just less scary for me, I guess.
Okay.
So
have you actually done more things?
Yeah, started this church, actually, the Church of the Infinite Game. Like I've been meaning to do that for years, but like kind of like as a psychotechnology for trying to helping people share their fears about the end, because like there's this saying that a fear shared is a fear halved. And I think that's true. And I think like suffering alone on this is brutal. So yeah, trying to help solve the coordination problem of like at least suffering communally, maybe around our fear of death. Is a way of at least approaching like the suffering angle and like less harm.
So the idea that we may all die motivates you to like, fuck it, let's do things right now anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And then trying to, just make it easier for people not to suffer alone, I guess. And then I've talked about it once or twice, but Denial of Death. Ernest Becker is a book about terror. It's kind of terror management theory is founded on this book, but his main premise is that everything we do as humans is cope in an attempt to distract us from the fact that we are going to die. And so if you look at all human experiences as trying to forget or like not have to deal with the fact that we're mortal and that we will die, he looks at like all human organizations as fulfilling that. And one reason people should read this book is like just to learn about immortality projects, because he says that we build immortality projects, things where we try to live on in some way after we know that we're going to die. And PDoom, if it all becomes computeronium, right, then that doesn't exist. But yeah, we build immortality projects, like this conference, like this podcast, like sports teams, like politics, like it's one of the things we do as humans. And I think looking and understanding the idea of an immortality project, and I've used that to try to get a frame on what I'm trying to do, I guess, looking at it as an immortality project, because it probably is.
Sounds a lot like Brandon's thing of throwing yourself into something bigger. We just had a second guest join us. Thank you very much, Ben. For the people who are listening after the fact and are unaware of this, Ben, you work at Lightcone, so I assume your PDoom is pretty high.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, it's like at least 80%.
And yet you seem pretty well adjusted, pretty good with your life. Do you think that is the case? Am I reading you incorrectly?
I think I'm doing all right, yeah.
Yeah.
I came in late, so I thought I would like listen for a while and find out exactly what was going on, but I have to jump straight in. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking about what to say ahead of time. Sometimes people sometimes people feel very depressed about the state of the world. And I feel like it's not clear that your mood should necessarily try to track some like absolute value number estimate of like how good or bad the world is today.
Yeah.
Like earlier, before I thought about existential catastrophes, I knew that there was like 150,000 people dying every day.
Yeah.
Was that the point where I should have become depressed and like, meandered around every day? Or maybe should I have been gleeful then and then only when I found out probably 10 to the 36 people will probably die, then should I become depressed.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think like I've got plenty of like pretty meaningful things in my life, lots of art and curious things and people living out various virtues. So yeah, I mostly feel pretty good, even though if you give me like, I try to have accurate beliefs about the state of the world, and then if you ask me questions like, oh yeah, what's the chance that one of these big machine learning runs will like lead to an extinction event? I'll be like, oh yeah, it's pretty high. But you know, I still get through the day.
Have you changed anything about your life since your PDoom went from, I don't know about extinction to, oh my God, it's 80%?
I think often, especially when I was younger, people didn't really believe in the future already. I don't know why. People were not very good at making long-term plans. They already like kind of lived this year and maybe next year and a few years later. Lots of people seem to not think they want to have kids, and then suddenly like they become 31 and they have kids. We're going from I will not have kids to I now have kids very suddenly or something like this. So I feel like people are already not living super amount in the future. So I don't know that something radically changed. I wouldn't say so. But to be clear, I like decided I would probably work on X-Risk when I was about 14 when I read the last rung sequences. So, it was quite early on. I was already oriented to it as a thing.
Wow. Very early boomer. Do we think that in general humans just don't have the ability to think about things that far out and extinction, and that's why people generally don't change very much?
I don't think that's the case. Almost everyone here thinks about the long future and projects like that, right? Do you mean like, do we emotionally connect with those things? Or I don't know, it's hard to like be moved to tears about something that's going to happen in 1 billion years, right? But
what about in 10 years though?
But you're right, that's the thing. As well seem to like, I think we see that there's a reasonable chance we'll be there, right? Then it's easier to connect to it. But a lot of people here are fans of, the aims of places like the Future for Humanity Institute, right? Places that have long-term goals. So I don't think that we're incapable of thinking those things.
Yeah, and I think it's really common for kids to go through some depression when they find out about the heat death of the universe.
Huh.
I had that.
Yeah, raise your thumbs up or thumbs down. Did you get sad when you first learned about the heat death of the universe? 3, 2, 1, shoot. Stephen, you want to read the room for us?
A lot of thumbs down. Did I put my thumb wrong? Up meant I was bummed. Was no one else bummed about it?
Yeah, up means bummed.
Okay, yeah, so we have mostly thumbs down, some sideways, a couple up. So I don't know, a spread, but most of them thumbs down.
I actually feel like this is one of those ways in which the Jewish Christian worldview is this thing that we are still assuming, even those of us who are mostly secular. Someone's said that the Christian worldview is that the universe is essentially bright and shining, and there are these dark splotches on it. And they compared that with the Norse worldview, where everything is dark and cold. and there are in the humans and the gods and the whatnots, these bright sparks that are in it. We named our one of our daughters actually after the Norse word for spark. And I feel like if that's your basic worldview, then I don't know, like, yeah, the universe is going to return to the way it always should have been. But isn't it nice that we got to be here in the first place? I know that sounds childish. I always feel like when I have conversations with people who have really thought about this, they're going to burst my bubble by pointing out something that I haven't thought about that makes me so seemingly blithe about this. Anyone want to burst my bubble on this? Anyone want to try? I'd actually love, I'd hate that, and I'll thank you later. But right now, I'd actually really appreciate it. I don't understand how a 30% probability, or even up to a 50% probability, let's just say, of PDoom in our lifetime, makes people really sad.
It makes, for me anyway, it makes everything feel meaningless. I was working towards something before, and now I can't work towards anything because there won't be anything.
But there's so much. Right, like Leibniz, was that the quote? Right, like every person is a world in and of themselves.
I mean,
and
that's what I'm focusing on now.
There's
more local
billion of us, right?
Yeah.
Like you can make a lot of in the grand accountancy of things. You can make a lot of difference even right now if the world buzzes out in a week.
I do want to say this reminds me a small side of one of my colleagues recently. I think one of them shared in the group in the Slack that I think estimates of how many years are available left to humanity or civilization left in the universe went from like, I don't know, something like 10 to the 48 down to 10 to the 36 or something. Mm-hmm. And then one of my other colleagues was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just quit now then. We've lost most of the value in the universe. Why would I keep working? Whereas I had incorrectly thought it was a smaller number. I had thought it was like 10 to the 24 and it had gone up to 10 to the 36. And so I was overjoyed by the news. I doubled my effort that week.
Oh.
That's not true. But yeah, I think it's a bit hard to tie your motivations exactly to the indice of the amount of joy available left in the universe.
It seems like there's an open question as to what is big and what is small.
Yeah.
And it seems like one of the ways that you could measure a big effect is a larger fraction of the amount of joy flourishing that is potentially left. So if we knew that the universe was going to blinker out tomorrow, then the amount of good that we could do seems to get bigger in that calculus.
My view used to be like the big is far, like in the future distant, right? You're working towards something really far. And I mean, now that I have to change my point of view that the big thing is the width. It's a short term in the future, but it's really wide across all the humans around me. And what I save up for the future doesn't really matter anymore. So instead, I need to use it now while I can on the people that are still here, because there's a lot of them. And, you know, I can't even help the tiniest fraction of them, but there's a few things I can do for the people around me, which maybe I would have been not as willing to do in the past. Because it would have always been like, you know, gotta plan for the future, gotta plan for the 5 million years horizon.
I do think my perspective on like history has changed a bit. I think I used to have a more indefinite view of the future. Like, well, the future will just probably keep going. That's nice. I'll do whatever I do, and regardless of it, it will probably keep going. But now I'm more in like those parts of history where, you know, you're starting a country and the other countries around you are trying to kill your country and take over the land. You don't really know if you'll have a country in 17 years or something.
Right.
But you could fight for it, or your country might fight for it, and things might go well. But everything is much more up in the air, and like the consequences of decisions will matter.
Scary thing for me is that I've always thought the good parts in society happen from people who are very long-term thinking. When you are very short-term thinking, that's when you make stupid decisions that degrade life for everybody. And I'm coming to the grips that that may not be the fact.
I think it's possible to make good short-term decisions.
Yeah.
I think most of the forces pushing forward society are pretty stupid. Like, you know, companies, they make money, it gets sold. You're all right, we can probably do a company here that'll make some money. Yeah. And then that makes a bunch of things that makes everyone's lives better. But it wasn't some massive mind behind like planning the whole economy or something like that.
I was also far more of a socialist in my youth. So.
I feel like this goes back to, Eneasz, your early Christians point. So just to make that again, the early Christians were people who were convinced that the world was going to end. And they took from that the idea that their actions now had extra significance.
Yeah.
I feel like for those in our community who are of a high PDoom, maybe we could interpret it like that. Maybe we could do the sorts of good that you can only do when you think that the world is about to end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. I think John Wentworth has a good Less Wrong post where he says, I work to solve the alignment problem, not because it is easy, because it is very, very hard. It'll be awesome when I pull this off.
Nice.
And it's a worthy challenge for his life relative to the meager challenges he had before him. That's one attitude.
Here we have a question shouted from the audience without a microphone.
Okay, the question is, the things that are going to wipe out humanity, are they not moral agents? Do they not have joy or other things that matter as well?
That's not necessarily my take on it. Like, I think it's understandable for it to be a bummer prospect whether or not the AIs that kill us really, really liked it and are happy forever that they did it, or if they just did it, you know, as the same way that my, you know, calculator pumps out numbers and they did it without thought or care. I suppose one is worse than the other if you're counting utils, but I'm not counting utils, so...
There's more than one school of thought on this. It's entirely possible that we would be wiped out with things that don't have any sort of moral significance, any consciousness, just processes working. There's also, you know, the thought that maybe we would be replaced by actual agents that have their own desires and all that. Regardless, the question that most people, like, when I meet them today, ask is like, I'm going to be wiped out and everyone I love is going to be dead and everything we've worked for is going to be gone. So regardless of what comes after us, how do I deal with that?
I think there are stories of the future where we all get gradually uploaded consensually into, you know, emulated minds and then alter our minds to become more powerful, glorious, transhumanist beings. I think that's not normally what people are referring to when they say, I'm concerned about the doomy outcomes.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're still around, that's great. That's the good ending.
Yeah, even if we're not biological things anymore.
Yes. No.
Epicurus, the Greek philosopher, would have us ask, did the universe suck before humans came onto the scene?
Did the universe suck?
Like the Mesozoic. Was the Mesozoic awful because humans weren't there?
Yes. I prefer this era.
I guess what I'm wrestling with right now is that if our assumption is that a rogue AI would take over all multicellular life, for example, okay, that's one scenario. But if you only are fearing that it's going to kill all the humans, another technological species that pose a threat, that actually feels like an entirely different scenario that I'm sure lots of people have distinguished between those two, but I suddenly realized read any of those. And I instinctively have very different emotional reactions to those.
I do want to acknowledge that I definitely went through some periods of... previously, I was like, the risk of human extinction seems real and worth working on. And then I was working on it for a while. And then at some point, I kind of, sort of around the sort of time where Eliezer Yudkowsky wrote Death with Dignity, I was like, it seems like, in fact, it is the default outcome now. And this is worse. And I definitely had to adjust in my mind, change where I found as sources of meaning. I think as one example, I think prior to that point, I would have broadly said simply investing generically in a like strong and healthy rationality community will lead to good things, like valuing truth and truth-seeking processes and curiosity. And if I just have more of this will like expand and help save the world in some route. I no longer think that simply doing that is sufficient or will be sufficient. And it's not something I like believe in as much as I did back then, where I just go, yeah, I don't quite know how or when or the exact route of things. The same way we mostly don't know the exact route of the future, but like I believe in investing in this thing as a thing that will like bring the world to a good and like healthy and like great state. I don't currently think that as straightforwardly anymore, and I like had to give up on some things there.
Oh.
But similarly, as I was saying, going from like, I just generally we have a country, and it seems like things will probably have a country in 100 years, to all the countries around me are attacking me, and I may not have a country in 2 years. You have to like change the things that you invest in, and change the things you believe in, and change the sources of your meaning. But like many people have lived through those situations. Many of them have died. Many of them have prevailed. There is a way of living in those situations, but it's not the same as the way as living before. But I think there is still meaning to be found in those worlds, in those situations.
Since this is a different situation and you're saying there's a different way to live, what is that different way? Someone was listening right now and is like, so how should I live differently?
That's a hard question. I don't know how they've been living already. I don't know if they were already orienting to this. I suspect they may be not, and then they're surprised. Can we come back to me and I'll think about it?
Sure. One thing I just try to drive into their heads if I could help with, like, not telling people how to think or whatever, but if someone asked, I just try to remind them that, like, meaning and joy are in the experiencing of having it, not in how long it lasts. Like, yeah, the longer the better, usually, probably, but I'm not an Orgasmium subscriber either. So, like, I value more than just bliss, and it's not about it lasting forever. You know, like there's a lot of, it sounds like bumper sticker wisdom, but it's bumper sticker wisdom for a reason. But think, like a song isn't meaningful because it never stops, right? It's beautiful to experience hearing it, to have made it and all that. And then it stops playing and it was still good that it happened.
Yeah.
Right. I think just kind of meditating on that fact helps a bit.
I think a lot about that joyful moment is now in the time stream forever. And you can't take it out.
The thing is, it always will be.
Yeah.
And, whether or not the time stream for humans ends in 10 years or it ends in 10 billion years.
Right. It was still there.
Yes. And it was nice while it was there.
And it's still there forever, like depending on how you think of time. As a single block that lasts forever, then it's just there.
Yeah.
And I try to make as many of those as possible now.
I thought about your question.
Yes.
I think there's definitely no one-size-fits-all answer for like how do you deal with a situation where you've got a threat, an existential threat oncoming that's like bearing straight at you. There are many different existential threats. There are many different societies you might be in. You have to try and understand the society you're in. You have to try and understand the kind of levers that it might pull on to fix things. I would not be then simply pull all the levers correctly and save your society single-handedly. Most people will not do this. In fact, no people will do this. There's a woman here called Catherio who made a website called microcovid.org. During COVID, we had lots of group houses, and a bunch of people were like, well, there's just flat rules. You cannot see people in these circumstances or these circumstances or these circumstances. Microcovid, for all the different circumstances you're in, would estimate how many 1 in a millionth chances of getting COVID do each one give you. Like, were they wearing masks? How far away? How long? Was it indoors, outdoors, etc.? What's the baseline COVID in your area? This was really helpful to a lot of people, especially a lot of people who could use math to make decisions in their lives, which also correlated with people who noticed existential risk was kind of high. this was a fantastic thing that she did. And it was really, I mean, she led the project. And I hope she found meaning in that, because I think it was really great that someone in the society did that. She did not thereby save the entire world. She did not thereby ensure a good future for her children.
Yeah.
But she did help.
Yeah. She made the world locally better.
And I think somehow, in a way that feels a bit correlated to me with sanity, she helped out, especially sane people, in some way, and also made it easier for people to be sane. They didn't have to do all the math themselves. I think there's a bunch of things like this. There's a guy here called Steve Newman. He invented Google Docs. Again, he led the team. I'm grasping slightly, but it's crazy that guy made that. It's really useful. I think there's a lot of things like this where, as far as they get to pick their psychology, I hope they find it really meaningful and it pays off their entire life that they did something that useful for us orienting to the world. I think there's a lot of things like this. And then you can try and you can figure out where they are, and then you can try and then you can fail and then you can feel bad, or you can succeed and feel good that you helped things. So I think there's a bunch of things you can do.
A question from the audience.
I just wanted to say that we've sort of been through a similar sort of situation with nuclear weapons not too long ago. And if you didn't live through sort of the 50s, the 60s, all the way up until maybe, when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was a large number of people that, and I was one of them, that had to struggle with like death of all of your friends and civilization and so on. And so it's, not the same, but sort of similar, and maybe, talk to your parents, your ancestors, anybody that sort of lived through that, and see how they sort of dealt with that feeling and situation. It's not unique, and it's sort of part of humanity, like you're saying. Many times there's existential worries, and so
I think that's a really good point. I don't think that looking to our ancestors is I think there's an underutilized source of wisdom that our community maybe doesn't use as much as it could. And you're right. I mean, our parents grew up every day thinking this might be the day, right? Duck and cover drills at school where they lied to kids saying hide into your desk would, help you survive a nuclear blast. Yeah.
From the audience, he said things like the hippie culture was a big motivation, the fact that we all might die very soon, so let's have some fun in the meantime. I agree. Yeah, I certainly have been doing a lot more to try to have fun and to bring joy where I can.
Did you ever hand up too?
We are at like 2 minutes.
We're not an artsy community. We're a nerd-ish approximation of an artsy community. There's a lot of art. There's a lot of art that deals with the themes of how do you deal with finitude, with death, with disaster. Do we have any groups that are doing readings of these things, that are doing art appreciations of these things and using those to help us talk about that?
I would like to take this moment to shill our AI-generated album by the Fuming Shoggoths called You Have Not Been a Good User, which has a number of songs about this subject, which you can hear at the Fuming Shoggoths dance party tonight. I just wanted to reply that to the We Are Not an Artsy Community. I've just been in a room putting together songs for tonight. Anyhow.
They're rescinded and updated. Thank you.
I think in 2022, the solstice celebration that we had really focused a lot on this question. I found it very helpful, and I assume a lot of people in the Bay Area did. Anyways, we are time.
Can I add one more thing?
Please.
I do think one of the things that was on my mind, especially when the things like Death with Dignity went around, is that I felt concerned that Peter Thiel has his two axes of optimism, pessimism, and definite, indefinite, where indefinite means this is going to happen no matter what you do, and definite means this is going to happen for specific reasons that you could change. I feel like society for a while, especially with like Steven Pinker's kind of like, hey, everything's just getting better. The stats are going up, man. Kind of been an indefinite optimism. Mm-hmm. Hey, things are just getting better. I think one of the big concerns I had was that it would move, like people saying, no, an extinction threat is here. People would not hear the like details. They would just merely move to indefinite pessimism. I think I'm a definite pessimist. I think things are going bad for specific reasons that you could change. And I would encourage people not to merely go, oh yes, things are going badly, and there is nothing anyone can do about it, least of all myself, and there are no hopes to be had.
Yeah.
This is not my position, and I would not encourage this position.
Fair. But people can still do things to help change the outcome.
Yes. I think civilization could make many changes.
We should talk more about that at a later podcast because we have to go. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
I'm afraid they took the room, but yeah.
I'm here with Miranda. Stephen is not here right now. Miranda, you are originally Swimmer 963 from the Less Wrong 1.0 forums, right?
Yes.
Okay. Many awesome posts. Thank you for that. Do you consider your PDoom to be high?
Yes, I think so. I think I have pretty wide uncertainty bars, but I don't feel like I have observed a lot of civilizational competence on handling problems at this scale. So that definitely increases it.
Yeah. Around how much-ish would you put it in the range of what we defined in the live recording was chance for complete human extinction within the next 10 years?
I think that my timelines are not as short as some people, so next 10 years is lower than what I would say next 50 years.
Okay.
I think that my PDoom on the scale of 50 years is like center of the range distribution, 70%.
Yeah, that's definitely high. Before we get to how to live a good life with that, how has that impacted your ability to live in general? The feeling that we've got such a high chance of not being around soonish.
I mean, I don't like it. I think that it makes it harder to think about what makes sense to do with my work. I think it has less impact on things where I can kind of live in the moment, but I have definitely had a lot of avoiding thinking about it because it is too big and then not really having access to my whole motivation system.
Meaning it's harder to get motivated for things as well?
Yeah, for work things.
Okay.
So I think I have been doing EA direct work as my career goal for a long time, and that is on the basis that I think that I thought in 2015 that there were things other than ICU nursing I could do that would have a higher impact or a higher probability of helping a lot of people. And it's hard to feel that way when I'm like, I don't know if anything I do is even in the right direction.
Yeah.
Or it can feel kind of hopeless.
Yeah, like nothing's going to matter soon.
Yeah.
Around what time did you slip into feeling that way?
Definitely after 2015. I feel like there was a period of definitely shortening timelines and probably increasing probability of PDoom, especially on an instinctive level, like sometime between 2019 and 2023.
Okay. I am asking you specifically about this question. I mean, I asked a few people, but you're one of the people that came to mind almost immediately because we met in person for the first time. I think really just met for the first time in 2022. A lot of rationalists were updating to significantly shorter timelines around there because GPT-2 had just come out recently and was doing amazing things. Yeah, a lot of people that I met with were feeling pretty hopeless and kind of despair-ish. And you had written a short story for this writer's retreat we were at, which is called Skin Now, which just captured this feeling incredibly well. The whole, oh God, the world's getting eaten by these alien things, and we maybe are all going to die soon. It's an emotionally evocative story. It's really good. One of the major questions the story raises is, should one introduce a new life into a world that is going to be eaten soon? It's a really compelling question, and, well, without giving spoilers to the story, it was kind of reflective of your mood and the mood of other people I knew, and since then, you have, in fact, had a child.
Yes, I have.
This makes me feel that you have found some way to live a good life with a high PDoom, and you've decided it's good to bring a child in, and I'm going to keep living a life that's productive anyway. How do you feel like you're living a good life, and how do you do that? How have you managed that?
So I do feel like during the time I spend with my child, I am living a good life. This does not mean that I feel okay all of the rest of the time. I think one of the things I was grappling with when I wrote the story, and this was told from the perspective of the child, and not really the mother, but the mother in the story was struggling to cope for a lot of the story, and this had a big impact on her child. And I think that was something I was kind of grappling with was, can I be okay enough to be loving and present and, yeah, give my child a joyful life for as long as we have? And I think I've decided that I can. That might change at some point. I don't know. But I think that my daughter is very happy and I'm happy when I'm with her. Overall, I think that it doesn't fix the scale of, I don't know, being able to think about the problem or all of the effects on my motivation. But I think that despite the sleep deprivation and the time it takes up, I think I am more able to function as I have a child.
That's awesome. Would you broadly recommend that people, if they can and if they have the inclination, like have a child or someone that they can care for and love deeply as a way to manage feelings? God, that sounds so instrumental.
This does. I think that it is a very risky advice to give. I think that, people vary a lot on their intrinsic biological drive to reproduce. And I've always been really, really high on the just wanting a baby since I was 16. And I think that not feeling like I'm sacrificing ever getting to have this thing that's really important to me, was something that I needed. And I think that anyone else who is in that position will probably know. Like if you're in the position where this is an incredibly important thing to you, I think that you know that. And for me, it did turn out that like I was right that having a baby was wonderful. I do think for a lot of parents it is not wonderful, and it's kind of an investment that pays off once your kid is older and not keeping you up all night. Like, I'm not sure what percentage of the population actually finds the infant and toddler years joyful, but I am finding them joyful, and that's really important to me that, like, however long we have, I think all of her childhood is going to be really good, and she's really happy in that.
Yeah, you're introducing a lot of joy into the world by having her.
Yeah.
Is the more broader advice then, don't sacrifice things that are very important to you?
Yeah, I think that for me, there are some kinds of like value things that are valuable to me that just do not funge with other things. Mm-hmm. Like there's no amount of money that would make up for not having a child. And I think that I was too willing to sacrifice things like that when I was 22. I don't know if I want to universally give the advice that you should not sacrifice things that you feel that way about. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that in fact, it did not work to give me more time to focus on my career because I was just depressed.
Oh, okay. Why were you so willing to sacrifice things at 22?
My personality?
Okay.
I think I'm just very guilt trippable with the like, this thing is really important and you are one of the people who can do something about it. Like, I had a life in Canada as a nurse where I felt like I had a lot of slack and was like, I was accumulating savings pretty quickly. I lived near my parents. And then I think the decisions that brought me to the Bay Area meant that in 2017, we had very little savings and not that much job stability. And it was suddenly a position where it was not a great time to have a child. The sort of flexibility of being able to decide to quit a job because it didn't seem like it was having the impact I wanted, which I did, in fact, leave CEA in 2019, because I didn't feel good about my positive impact at that job. And I think if I'd had a kid at that point, I would have felt more like, well, I can't just quit my job. But I think that given that we had gotten to a life position where we did kind of have the resources to spare, I think it was the right choice to have a child and probably would have been correct to try a bit sooner.
Would you have rather stayed in Canada, all things considered?
I don't think so. I think that I'm wistful for the world where I could have thought it was correct to do that. But like, given that this is the world, like, man, I don't think I was wrong in 2010 about AI being a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of the last, I guess, 15 years have shown is I'm like the things that I was thinking about when I was on Less Wrong in 2010 and sort of the line of reasoning that got me to leave and move to the Bay. I'm like, I don't think I was wrong.
All right. So a large part then is don't sacrifice all your values on the altar of this, whatever this is.
Yeah.
Make sure you're taking care of yourself too.
I think that is advice I would feel comfortable giving in general.
Okay. Any other general advice that you think is good for living well if you have a high probability of human extinction?
I do feel like I don't know if I want to give this as advice because maybe other people are better at this, but like I don't think I have gotten that much mileage out of the directly stare into the void and try to grapple with it. I have sometimes tried that, and I'm like, I don't know that this is productive. And I think that to the extent I've done sort of productive processing on it, it is indirectly through fiction. I wrote a very long fantasy fanfic series that was to a significant extent grappling with my X-risk feelings.
Is that a song for two voices?
Yep. When I am doing my job, I try to focus on the more near-term stuff and the stuff that I do have influence over. And I think that it can sort of grappling too hard with the darkness can pretty easily just make it feel like none of the directions you can move are the right one, and therefore nothing is very motivating.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know if avoid your feelings about things is good life advice, but like I am doing that to some extent. I'm like, I'm going to live this year, and I'm thinking about the future on the scale of this year. And I think that right now that is helping me get work done for Lightcone, which is maybe a project that will matter. And it is important to me that I've thought about whether like Lightcone is a project that might matter and is probably not making things worse. But like now that I've had that thought, I am not really doing that much dwelling on the longer term future.
I mean, focusing on the near term and doing what you can now is better than being paralyzed by fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sometimes will just clean up around the house, and I know that's nothing in the grand scheme, but like my local environment is nicer now, and it makes me feel better, and I do it for that reason. I'm also happy you brought that up. I have heard advice. In fact, earlier in this episode, someone recommended an app that prompts you 5 times a day to think about your own death and decay. I was like, I guess that works for some people.
Probably some people could use advice in that direction.
Yeah.
Interestingly, like that's not a particularly upsetting topic for me. Like I have thought about my own death. I'm like, this is fine. It's the everyone's death that gets to me more.
Yeah. It's the idea that there will be nothing after.
Yeah.
You said that you may be putting Skin up on the Less Wrong forum?
Yes, I should do that. I should get around to doing this.
Okay.
I think I feel a bit like I need to write a prelude at the bit of like, this is the year this story was written in. I did not write it this year. But yeah, maybe I can just put it up. I should have done that a while ago.
If you get it up within the next 9 days, I will absolutely link it in the show notes.
Cool. I will try to do that.
It really is a great story, guys. You're going to love it. That is everything.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right, Stephen, first things first. We have been talking this episode about PDoom and how to live with a high PDoom, but you know it would be really great.
Eager to find out.
It would be great if maybe we could lower the actual probability of doom.
Wouldn't that be something? I'm fully sold already. What do you have for me?
The thing that this will require is a worldwide coordinated effort, and we can't do that if there's a whole bunch of people who still don't believe that it's an actual problem. One way of helping people realize this might actually be a problem is through this book that is coming out soon called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies, written by our good friends Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soares.
Yeah, I've already reserved my copy. I believe you have as well.
Yep.
I've talked to people about it. Reserving books in advance of printing or release really bolsters the salesmanship of that book. You know, it's like pre-ordering a video game. It's like, we're only going to make X number of copies. Back in the days when copies are made of stuff. And,
Yeah.
and if only 10 people are interested, we're not making 1 million of these discs, right? I think a lot of us struggle with the feeling of, how do I help with these big problems?
Exactly. It would probably make it easier for people who read this book to argue about it efficiently and convincingly with family members or friends in ways that, don't sound all crazy and woo-wee and don't require 2 years of reading a sequence of blog posts to get your mind around. You can put things in more succinct and clear ways that are convincing to the average person. That's a large part of the purpose of this book.
I think it's great. Well put.
You can either go to ifanyonebuildsit.com to get this, or to Amazon. We have links to both in the show notes. If you're feeling particularly doomy and not sure what to do, this is a thing that can help make life feel less out of control and chaotic.
If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies by Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soares.
Excellent. Stephen, welcome back.
Hey, how's it going, man?
pretty good. I'm not sure why I'm saying welcome back. There's got to be some other thing I can say because, like, it's not like you really left or anything.
It feels like it's been a while because it's been like 2 or 3 weeks since we recorded the last segment, and I recall that it was a heavy subject, and this is going to be nice and whiplashy for the listeners. So this will be a nice way to perk up and think of positive things.
Yeah, positive things like the Guild of the Rose.
Exactly.
They are our friends in the rationalist community, which are helping everybody here to get better at doing rationalism in their day-to-day lives, and maybe even help the wider world raise the sanity waterline if we can get some other people to come in on this thing.
Damn well put. Yeah, they've got courses on everything from fashion to decision theory to public speaking, and everything else you can think of. And if you can't think of it and you know about it, you can probably teach a class about it.
And yeah, they also provide you with an online community. If you teach things, that online community, you feel more useful and more connected to them. And I think one of the major things I've come to is like feelings of PDoom are assuaged a bit when you have a community of people around you. So I think it's great advice, even for people who are feeling, like the world is ending and this is scary. It's like good to have other people. And here's other people in a community online.
Check them out at guildoftherose.com or the link in the show notes. Also,
Yes.
I just did a base blast a couple days ago as of the time of this recording with one of the co-founders of the Guild, and he gave his own awesome pitch for it. But we also talked about cool AI gen music, which was really dope. So everyone check that out too.
Nice. For the people who came out to LessOnline and to Manifest to say hello to me and to Stephen, there were a few conversations that even were just pretty quick, just a few lines like, hey, I like your podcast. You're great guys. And like that was really awesome. It does make us feel very appreciated. So thank you. Shout outs to all those people.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a very weird position, but not a bad one. It's just I'm oddly shy about it for some reason that I'm trying to figure out. But that said, don't let that slow you down. If you see me anywhere in the real world and run up and say hi, I will be ecstatic about it. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. If you were the guy who won the auction to come on the Bayesian Conspiracy episode, I lost my notebook that I'd been carrying around that week, so I lost your contact information. Yeah, please email us at bayesianconspiracypodcast@gmail.com or get in touch with us any other way that you see fit, and we will arrange something.
Yes, we'll have to explain the context for that when we do that episode.
Yeah, it was a fun little auction with fake con bucks that were used for just trading favors for a day or two.
Fantastic. But to whom the person Eneasz is speaking, you know who you are.
The final thing we do is thank a supporter, which it sounds like it is your turn to have that joy today.
Yeah, I got special shout out this week to NAO, capital N, lowercase a, capital O. So I don't know if that's like sodium oxide or a cool username, but either way, love it. And you rock, NAO. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We really do appreciate it. It's kind of a little piece of joy. I mean, I know Stephen and me say this every time, but it really is a little piece of joy to read the name of somebody who appreciates this stuff every week. And I like having like an individual person to name each time.
Me too. We say it every week because it's true every week. And if that sounds trite, well, there's nothing I can do about that. Like it really does. It makes all the difference in the world. Thank you so much. You rock. And anyone else who wants to shout out and rock as much as NAO does, they can find us on Patreon or Substack. But of course, it's no obligation. It's just if you have the bandwidth and you're available too. I try to undersell it, and I don't want to do so at the disrespect of Eneasz, who edits most of the episodes and works hard. So if you like Eneasz, feel free to find the Patreon or Substack and send a couple bucks.
Well, I think that's everything.
I think so. Thanks, man.
Stephen, I'll see you at Vibe Camp in a few days, and maybe some of our listeners who actually aren't getting this episode after Vibe Camp. So if you saw us at Vibe Camp, it was great meeting you.
It sure was. It was the best part. I honestly, sincerely believe that will be the case.
Hell yeah.
All right. I'll see you and maybe some listeners in a few days.
Bye.
Bye.